please allow me to introduce you to my first money teacher.
Nobody employs you to make you rich. Never, ever.
Our guest for this episode, Gor Semelang'o, is a seasoned businessman with interest in the oil industry. That's the oil business, biashara ya mafuta, petroli, nini nini.
Did you know that in fuel you also pay railways levy, and fuel is not ferried by by the train from Mombasa to Nairobi?
So minus the taxes, we could be buying fuel at half price.
Of course, or less.
Real estate, tourism and travel, and just to mention a few.
It doesn't matter to a Kenyan where they build. So you could build a house in the middle of nowhere, the ones they call ploti maguta maguta, and then you can't go home, you know. At night past 6 o'clock, you can't reach home.
His wealth of knowledge on money matters, top notch. For a business to work, you must give it time and attention.
That's why they are financial advisors. They never get the finances themselves. I mean, that's the difference. It's like a motivational speaker. I mean, they're just motivating you. But they may tell you I started a restaurant with 1 spoon of rice. But, I mean...
Gor Semelang'o has served the Kenyan public on very many levels, but many of you may recognize him from the position of the chairman of the Youth Enterprise and Development Fund, and he's going to give us a bird's eye view of the relationship between the Kenyan youth and the world of business and entrepreneurship.
When a Kenyan goes to a bank to get a loan, you will not tell anyone. In fact, if you are having a problem with your government, because after 1 year, the government says we will not borrow. Then after 1 year, you hear they borrowed.
Gor Semelang'o's ideas on wealth creation are tried and tested, and you'll not look very hard to find the results.
It's very hard to come from 100 to 100,000. But it is easier to come from 1 million to 100 million.
How? Now for this conversation, tulimkuta nyumbani kwake. Luckily, he had time on his hands for us.
Since 1884.
I'm Dr. Kingori, and here's another reason to stay subscribed to our channel. Kama uja subscribe, here's a reason to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell. Shida ya kupiga story na wewe is because mtu ajui ataanzia wapi, because the meat is too much. But let's start with the rich get taxed more, the wealthy don't pay taxes. That's the phrase.
Yes, the wealthy get taxed less.
The wealthy get taxed less.
Yes, because they have what is called financial intelligence.
Financial intelligence.
Yes.
Aya, let's trace back to mali yako inaanza 2004, and I'm glad we really had to have you on. Asante sana, because you told me the same thing someone told you in 2004, and I've applied it. Led to my first investment, and so on and so on. We'll explain the story to our viewers. But then 2004, do you remember the shift? How yako ili happen aje? Before someone touched your naitwaje, mtu alikuguza na financial literacy.
Yes, there's financial literacy, and of course there's financial intelligence. But you know how it started? You ask me which book did I read. You know, I'd read a book called The Magic of Thinking Big.
Yes.
And which means whatever you want is available. That's how the world works.
Yes.
It starts with your mindset.
Yes.
It's available. There are people who are poor and there are those who are rich.
Yes.
It all starts with your mindset.
Yes.
There's a saying, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you are right.
Yes.
So it starts with a mindset and a decision that you want to go somewhere. You must have a goal. So everything you do counts. If you do things that adds value to the goal, or towards the goal, then you'll reach your goal.
Okay.
Either it's taking you, everything you do counts, because either you're doing something that takes you towards your goal, or it's taking you away from your goal. There's no neutral.
Two choices.
Yes.
Now, do you remember yourself before your turning point?
Yes.
Yeah, understanding money.
Yes, I do.
What was your first investment?
First of all, I used to think that the world, I used to complain that the world is unfair. So I had a friend who told me, who told you it should be fair? Because that's how the world is. It's unfair.
Yes.
There will always be those who will be rich, and there will be those who will be poor. You have to choose where you want to belong.
Okay, we'll talk about mindset, but there's always those who will be rich, those who will always be poor.
That's how the world works.
That's how the world works.
Yes.
How do you choose the side to play at? Of course, mindset comes number one.
Yes.
The moves you need to make ndio uingie the right side.
Yes.
Kama wewe, you are, I think I've described you in different platforms as a debt master.
Yes.
Yes. Na watu wanaogopanga deni sana, and you have enough people saying, including you, that you can't grow without debt.
You can't.
How do you start? Like the bank cannot give you money when you don't have money. You have to prove that you don't need the money.
Yes.
Before they give you money.
The bank actually give people money, those who don't need the money.
Yes.
Because they ask you for 6 months bank statement, which means you must be having money for that period of time.
Yes.
Actually, the bank looks at what comes in, not what goes out. So basically, it means that you must be doing something that brings in money. So that's what they calculate.
Yes.
They look at your your turnovers.
Yes.
So then they can be able to gauge how much they need to give you and if you'll be able to repay.
Yes.
Sometimes, and most of the time, it doesn't even matter whether you have a security.
Security does not matter for the most part.
Really, that is not the most important. It's your cash flow. It is your turnovers. Okay. Security is basically to secure the loan.
Yes.
The bank is comfortable that should anything happen, you are not able to pay, then they are able to use the security.
And you see, most people are locked at, they don't even go, they don't even try to approach a bank because you already don't have the 6 months turnover.
Yeah.
What is a breaking point? Like
sometimes it's happened. You know, they say don't do what is called paralysis analysis. You analyze yourself and then you paralyze yourself. So that's why they say if you want to meet a pope today, all you have to do, you need to know a Catholic.
Yes.
Who knows a father. Who knows the Pope's representative or the Archbishop, then you'll be able to see the Pope.
If you want to see the Pope.
Yes. You just need to know a Catholic.
That's the first step.
That's the first step. So then you avoid paralysis analysis. That means you analyze yourself and then now you paralyze yourself. You say, I can't do it.
Okay.
Yes.
So the idea, this ties to something you still, I can quote you a lot on. Your network is your network.
Yes, it is. Sometimes it's not even who knows you. It's not who you know. It is who knows you. Because all of us don't you know Donald Trump?
Yes, you know.
Yes, but does he know you? You know Mike Zuckerberg, don't you?
Yes.
Does he know you?
You know, Joe, you'd make it sound like you have to be famous to make money.
No, you don't have to be famous. Some of the people who have made a lot of money, you don't even know them. Some of the wealthiest people in this country, some of them you don't know. You don't know them.
You just need to be known by the right people.
Yes, you just need to be known by the right people. You know, initially they used to say you have to go to the golfing clubs, those clubs. But these days, you saw the other day, you could just be herding goats in a ranch or cows, and you are talking business. So it's just knowing the right people who know the right people.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you is there anything like a sure bet investment? Because there
isn't a sure bet investment, but there are chances. You see, the higher the risk, the higher the profits. But in order to be an entrepreneur, you must take a risk.
Yes.
It is a risk business. Otherwise, our education system teaches you to go to school, pass your exams, finish school, and then learn how to apply for jobs.
Yes.
Actually, the colonialists or the colonial master trained us for the job market. So the education system was not set up for entrepreneurs, for people to create jobs. Basically, it tells you to go to school, finish school, then look for jobs. They were training beggars so that you would be able to fit in a job system where you are actually making money for others. So I think we have a wrong education system, and then we are producing more job seekers than job creators. So that is why in Africa and in Kenya in particular, we are having a job problem, or we are having an employment crisis, because our education system is churning out unemployed graduates, and some of them are also unemployable because the courses they are taking are not needed in the job market. And now we are moving to a skill-based economy.
Yes.
where you must be able to know early what you are good at and then pursue it.
What you're good at.
Yes.
But in the book of wealth,
Yes.
Work alone cannot make you wealthy.
No, it can't. Nobody pays you a salary to be rich or to be wealthy. None. Nobody.
But then that
Yes.
means skilling is obsolete to some extent.
No,
If
it's
what
a
you're
skill-based
pursuing is wealth.
economy means that you dig into a particular area that can be able to, can allow you
Your
to
entry
transfer wealth. You know, wealth is transferred all over the world.
Yes.
And wealth is hidden in problems. What that means basically is that your problem is another person's opportunity. When you are sick, it's a doctor's opportunity to make money. When you have legal problems, it's the lawyer's opportunity to make money. Yes, so that is how wealth now is transferred. It's knowing where there is opportunity. If you need accommodation, there's a landlord who is happy, who will be able to make money out of your desperation to get accommodation.
Okay.
So it's knowing, identifying opportunity. Even in the midst of an economic crisis or world economic recession, there are billionaires being created. It's getting to know what problems are there, do exist, and how to solve them.
Okay.
Then you make money.
I after reading the book you recommended,
Yes.
thank you for introducing me to the reading culture.
Yes, yes.
But then, after reading the book, I think I may have interpreted it literally.
Yes.
And I was like, I was doing rounds in Muthaiga,
Yes.
and then someone called me to go see a house they were selling.
Yes.
And the price tag was 500 million.
Yes.
500 million shillings. And then I did the mathematics that even if I was to save 500,000 shillings
Every day.
every month,
Every month.
every
Yes.
month,
Yes.
in 1 year, that's like 6 million.
Yes.
Then I would need 10 years consistently
Yes.
to save that, to afford that house, within which
Yeah.
the price would have gone up.
Of course.
What was wrong with my thinking then?
Your thinking was wrong. It's what they say. They encourage you for a saving culture. That's why I always say it's not about a saving culture. It's an investment culture.
Okay.
Yes. These things they talk about saving for a rainy day basically was sold by insurance. So that you insure your life, that if you die or something, if you are sick, then you go to hospital. If your car has an accident, you'll be paid by the insurance. So that saving culture was taken away by insurance, which now they call financial advisors.
Okay.
The insurance guys no longer call themselves insurance agents. They call themselves financial advisors. Which basically they're trying to tell you, instead of having a saving culture, then you need to have an insurance culture where you insure against future possibilities or impossibilities.
Okay.
So therefore, but what is important is about investment culture, because investment brings in money. So it starts for those who are employed. Then you can set aside some money in terms of saving, but that money must be invested somewhere. It could be in those funds that the insurance funds. They could be in a small business, startups, as you go through employment, because nobody employs you to get rich. So then you must be able to start getting out of employment by saving a little bit and investing in your side hustle. That will get you out of employment with a stable income, until such a time that when you leave employment, the amount of money you are making out of business is able to cover your monthly expenses.
Okay.
Yes.
In which case, if you say, would I be right to say, so a wealthy man is someone who is insured all round?
Not really. It can be insured in many ways. Like I told you, even debt. When you take debts, most debts now are insured.
Okay.
Which means then if you die, there is the insurance connected to the debt, that the debt can be offset, can be paid by the insurance. So it is basically calculated risk, that instead of keeping money, because if you take money to bank and keep it, somebody will be lent that money. So that's the core business of the bank, so that they use money that you have saved to give somebody else to make money and pay the bank interest. So that's how the bank makes money.
When you understand the money game, a zero bank balance is not a cause to worry.
No, it isn't. As long as the money you have is invested, it's not a cause to worry. It is basically understand, they call it financial literacy or financial intelligence. Understanding how money works. If you keep money in the bank, it means that the bank needs your money to lend to somebody else who wants to borrow that money and do business, and then pay the bank in interest.
Okay.
That's the core business of the bank.
Okay.
So a zero balance really doesn't mean anything as long as the money you have is invested somewhere else, so that there will be income. Okay. So the bank will look at the turnovers, how much money comes in. They don't care how much money goes out.
So your entry point into the money game has to be how you play with your money coming in.
Yes, your turnovers. If you want to get loans from the bank, and that's why they ask you for your 6 months bank statement. They want to look at your turnovers, how much money comes in. They really don't care how much money goes out.
And that's nothing to do with saving. It has nothing to do with how much money stays there.
No, it doesn't matter, because they don't care how much money gets out of the bank account. They care how much money comes in.
Okay. Yes. Na wewe you play at the level ya tunasemanga sisi watu wenye tuna grow tunasema playing with the big boys, right? Billionaire status. Like in terms of ranking. When you think about when mtu akichallenge watu kama sisi, they talk about, do you know if you spend, is it 240,000 per day with $1 billion shillings, you will need 32 years to spend it all. Something like that. It's a strange figure.
No, if you had $1 billion, basically you could, for instance, if you had $1 billion, you will never have to work for the rest of your life if you invest wisely. Even if you put it on treasury bills and get the treasury bill certificate, and you'd use that money to borrow. Dollar denominated.
Where you play in those leagues, why do you keep investing?
Because every time you get more money, you want more money. That's how money works. It is easier, it's very hard to come from 100 to 100,000. But it is easier to come from 1 million to 100 million.
How?
It's money grows using money. So it's easier when there's a level when you reach, it's easier to multiply. Yeah, so it's hard to come from 100, probably it's hard to come from 1,000 to 100,000, but it's easier to come from 100,000 to 1 million.
So what's the safe level of money that can keep multiplying itself? Like, yes, it's hard to come from 1,000 to 100,000. Yes. It's easier to come from 1 million to something bigger.
How money works? It is the investment choices you make. The high risk investment, but there are those calculated investments, risk investment.
I have quoted you severally on something, both on TV na conversations of finance. You told me that anyone telling you about a return on investment more than 5% per month is probably lying to you. In fact, you told me the most realistic return on investment is 5%.
Yeah, depending on it. You see, when you do real estate, normally in Kenya, and given different countries, in Kenya, basically, real estate is about 10%. If you invested 10% of your return on your investment in real estate, and it's normally in real estate is a bit sure bet, because it's real. That's why it's called real estate. So which means if you invested 10 million, probably every month you get 100,000.
Yes.
You get?
Yes.
In collection of rents, all that. So it's basically about 10% investment. But there are those get rich quick fixes, those schemes. Monkey business, where somebody comes up with a very good proposal. You know about monkey business? Did you know how it started?
No.
Monkey business is where somebody went to a village. He came up with an idea. So he had 2 monkeys, and then he went to a village and he said he's looking for monkeys. So, and he had his friend, so he told his friend, you come, and the guy started chasing monkeys. So he got 1 monkey. The friend brought monkey, and he said for 1 monkey he'll be paying 10,000. So then he bought the monkey. He bought those 2 monkeys. Then now he sent his friend, and he said now he's looking for monkeys. So if you get a monkey now, he'll be buying 1 monkey at 50,000. So guys, he set up guys from other places, so they come and bring monkeys. They say, I have monkeys I want to sell. So people bought monkeys, because then you'll buy at 20,000, And then the guy, you sell to him at 50. So he was basically recycling the same monkey. So it reached a point, he says now, for every monkey, he will buy at 100,000. So guys went round, you know, he's the same person selling the same monkey. So guys went looking for loans in the bank to buy monkeys. So they bought monkeys again. He bought at 200. Then he says now for every monkey, it's 500,000. Then guys went, and now monkey prices went up. So everybody was selling a monkey at 250. But somebody was saying, if I buy a monkey at 250, I'll sell at 500,000. Then he didn't buy the monkey. After he sold the monkey, yes.
He made his money.
He made his money.
That's
So guys were stuck with monkey. Monkeys. Or the other story of a guy who bought padlocks. One container of padlocks. And so he took the padlocks to Kirinyaga Road, and nobody was buying padlocks. So he went trying to every shop telling them that, do you want a padlock? Nobody wanted those padlocks. It's a specific padlock type. And then he recruited like 100 guys, and he told them, you go to shops asking with this sample, can I get a sample of this padlock? And the guy says, no, we don't have. He says, I need a full container of this. He says, are you serious? For how much will you buy it at? One padlock he was selling at 1,000. He says, I'll buy at 3,000 per padlock. Are you serious? Yes. So they went to different shops, and then somebody shows up with a padlock. He says, I am selling this padlock. I have a container. He says, I want half of the container. Or give me 100 pieces. Then the guy came and bought those 100 pieces at 2,000. Then what happened? Everybody wanted to buy it to stock this.
Yes.
After he sold to them, then now nobody showed up to buy the padlocks. Those are monkey business. So every time you see the deal is too good, I mean, just ask yourself, where on earth?
Yeah.
It's the same thing when they tell you they want to double money.
Yes.
When you look at the guy's shoes, he should have doubled his money first.
So this means that when you're being sold something, now this also changes the concept of business.
Yes.
When you're being sold something, you may just be buying into someone else's motive.
Yes.
It may not necessarily be the value you want.
Yeah.
Business
has become now a relationship. People buy you before they buy the product.
And people buy perception.
Yeah, and people buy perception. So then you have to be very careful. So you ask yourself, so how many people are buying? If you take the risk, so how deep can you put all your feet?
Yeah. And when you talk return on investment, real estate 10%, right?
Yes.
You yourself invested in real estate, and you told me that in our sessions advice, ulisema, you will not put money in real estate because that's tying down your money.
No, they are bad real estate, long term and short term. They are low hanging fruits. See, like when you're asking me renting or buying.
Yes.
It depends at the stage of life you are. You see, because sometimes you tie. Sometimes it's easier because there are dynamics. If you buy at once, so you tie the money. Or by the time, our mortgage rates are very high. If they're going to 13, 14 to 15% per annum, some of the highest rates in the world, which means if you buy a house of 15 million now, you end up probably paying 45 million in 15 years.
Okay.
So sometimes it's easier to rent and then use the money for other investments instead of tying down your investments.
Yes.
But the concept also, as a country, we grown up being told that it's good to have your own house. So really, as Kenyans don't really matter. It doesn't matter to a Kenyan where they build. So you could build a house in the middle of nowhere, the ones they call Ploti Maguta, and then you can't go home, At night, past 6 o'clock, you can't reach home. And it's useless. And if you look at the calculations of how much money you need to use to travel from where you live to your workplace, then it doesn't make economic sense to go build in the middle of nowhere.
And buying, say, for example, land, and this brings another point here. You buy in the forest because you cannot afford the cost of land in Lavington.
Yes.
But you also explained a concept where it may not be necessary.
Yes.
Or even wise to buy a plot of land at Lavington. For example, Lavington is figurative.
Yes.
Because the cost of appreciation is almost hitting the plastic point.
Yeah, it's a level of such a saturation point.
Yes, yes, yes.
So sometimes you see the cost of land in those places may have reached a saturation point. But in the outskirts, the properties are appreciating at high rate because the population is moving out of town. So sometimes you look at the area you want to buy vis-a-vis where the saturation point is almost. So it's a calculated risk you make.
Yes.
Because then you can end up tying too much money in a place where the saturation level are almost the boiling point.
Yes, yes,
which
yes.
means now the return on investment may not be the same.
The idea of speculation. Let's say, for example, you're getting a piece of land, a 50 by 100 in Kitisuru for 40 million.
Yeah.
Right?
First of all, there is no 50 by 100 in Kitisuru. High-end places. Because now maybe there are areas where the zoning, because of the zoning, so probably the 50 by 40 are in the outskirts. So these areas probably they put up high-rise buildings, which we call apartments. And so rather than you find people going, instead of buying an apartment, they go to outskirts and then they say they want a compound. But a compound in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you end up losing your life going home.
Because you are saving.
You were saving, and somebody told you must have a compound of your own. So you end up losing, you know.
Sawa. So half an acre, for example, for 40 million.
Yes.
But then you can go to Machakos
and
buy 100 acres for 40 million.
Yeah.
You explain this in a concept called time value of money.
Yes.
Please break it down for us.
It means, first of all these factors are driven by what government does. The provision of facilities means where there is road network, you have water, there's electricity, and then security. So basically, when you are making such decisions, then you look at those factors. So you could tie 40, which may not grow as fast as the outskirts. So these are things that you have to look at. And I have a talk with a real estate agent to be able to explain. And not one who has interest in selling to you. You know, there's also a big problem in Kenya where if you're asking a question to an interested party, so if you ask the agent who wants to sell you the same land, he will not tell you.
Give you the wrong information.
He will give you the wrong information and advise you wrongly. And you end up making a wrong decision because he's benefiting. So always be careful who you ask for advice.
Okay.
Ensure that as you ask for advice, it's not from somebody who is a direct beneficiary of the question or of the answer. Yes.
And all these are mathematics you have to know in the journey of creating wealth, because these are the areas where people make mistakes.
Big time mistakes.
Asking the right questions to the wrong people.
To the wrong people. Or mostly it's an interested party. If you ask a Kenyan who is selling land in Kitengela or in Kikuyu or those outskirts, whether it is good to buy land there, of course they will tell you it's good. It's a good decision because they are beneficiaries of your stupidity. So they make money. Like I told you, wealth is transferring hands every day. And somebody's problem is somebody's opportunity. So it's basically to identify opportunities where there are problems and not depending on government. Because then they say mostly there is no perfect government. Every government come and go, they come with the positives and the negatives. But what do you have to look at? You must run away from the victim mentality. You're waiting for government to do something for you. How wealth is created is that you look at the opportunities where there are problems. So if you solve problems, you make money.
But then the challenge here is, what's the difference between opportunism, greed, and entrepreneurship? Because you say money is hidden in problems.
Yes,
so you look at the suffering of people and you invest in the suffering.
No, you don't invest. You don't invest, you solve a problem. When the people who solve problems are the ones who make money. If you are sick, you go to see a doctor. The doctor will solve your problem by treating, and he makes money in the process. If you have a legal problem, the doctor, the lawyer, will solve your problem. by legal representation and sort that problem, and then they make money out of it.
Yes.
So it's hidden in the problem, which one man's poison is another man's
medicine.
Yes. So basically it means that somebody's problem is another person's opportunity. So it's looking for opportunities where there are problems, so that you solve the problem and you make money.
And do you limit yourself in terms of how much money you make, or is that where greed comes in, or opportunism and entrepreneurship? Yes, there's solving problems.
There's a thing, but greed is why people lose money. Greed now is is excessive desire to take advantage of other people's problem. But we are saying you are basically solving a problem.
So you take take advantage with a dosage. Like you don't go overboard. You don't go overboard.
There's a thin line but the greed is not right. Greed means that you use
unscrupulous.
Yeah, scrupulous means to obtain wealth. And sometimes that happens mostly in dealings with government. Because then you are taking advantage of people's situation. But this is different. It's where the opportunities, identifying opportunities by seeing where there are problems, and you provide solution. And you make money out of it.
Okay, but then when you come to the story you've given us about the padlock and the monkey business, is this creativity in money making?
Yes, it's creativity, but sometimes it's borders on greed. Because then you took advantage of people's ignorance.
You shouldn't.
Yes, because people then didn't ask questions. That's why it's called monkey business. And people didn't ask themselves, how comes all of a sudden that's what happens. We had a problem in Kenya where the quail business.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a hard mentality. Most
so
wealthy
business,
people don't get involved in business that everybody gets involved. Because there's the 1% of the population that controls the wealth of the 99%. So to be in the 1%, then you need not to be in the hard mentality. You don't need to do what others do. In order to be where others are not, then you need to do the things that others can't do and understand.
Do we have people who can start from scratch and join the 1%, or the 1% is generational?
No, it's not. Generational is very little. I mean, there are many billionaires who have come from nothing. They are the majority. At the peak, the majority came from nothing to something.
And it all
mastering the financial literacy, that financial intelligence, to understand what to do and what not to do.
Okay.
Yes, and have a goal. Like I say, you have a goal and you work towards the goal, and understand that everything counts, that everything you do counts. It's either taking you towards your goal or taking you away from your goal.
So money hakuna ati kuangukia, blessings you pray itakuja.
No,
you have...
na ikiangukia pia itakuondokea.
That's the rule.
Easy come, easy go. Yes, because there is no strategy, there is no building of the wealth. It's just like those one-hit wonder. You sang one song and it was a one-hit wonder. And then you made money and then you lost the money. You've seen that a lot, haven't you?
So there's like a money thermometer. Like when you grow with your money, it's very hard to lose it.
Yes, because there's a process and a pattern. But
something
if you
just... Can be repeated.
Yes, it's something that can be repeated. Yeah, as opposed to you just woke up one day, you went for a beauty contest.
Yes.
And then won. And then, or you ate githeri and then you became famous and then?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you see those people, you won a lottery.
Yes.
What happens to them? It's the same thing. It's not a process and a pattern. You do not understand how money works. Yes. Or how wealth is created.
So now, I believe this is one of my... Tutaenda tu tutarudi.
Yes.
You know oil inside out.
Yes.
Mafuta.
Yes.
Hii tarehe 14, niko sure, hii tarehe 14 tukipandishiwa na shilingi 5. By the way, what's behind that strategy? Kupandisha na 20 bob alafu mshukishe na shilingi 5.
You know, in oil, we say Kenya is a price taker. You know, there are price givers and price takers. We are not part of the OPECs. You know, those countries that are producing oil, they are price givers. They give us the prices. The prices of oil is not determined here. It's determined elsewhere. So what happens is that every year Kenya has a cycle of how the oil is imported into the country through what they call an open tender system. It's called OTS, an open tender system. So which means all the OMCs, oil marketing companies, go to a tendering process, not petrol stations. Petrol stations are through outputs, you know, the throughputs, where they put the oil there and then through the pumps. But the OMCs are the oil marketing companies, which in the OTS, which is the open tender system. So they sit every month and then do a projection, how oil comes into the country. Then one or two players bring oil into the country and then share. One or two or three or four, but there are so many. And then we share in the open tender system, in the OTS. So there are all those oil marketing companies that are in the open tender system. Now what happens is that the prices are not determined here. Kenya as a country, we are price takers. We are not price givers. The prices we are given is what we take. So, but every 14th, there is the ERC, the Energy Regulatory Authority, who are now EPRA now. But now EPRA they try to moderate so that the oil marketing companies don't take advantage of the population. So they set a price, given the price that the product has landed, because Kenya gets refined products. Refined products means finished. We don't have an oil refinery here to refine crude oil. So we buy products from outside and then come into the country by 1 or 3 or 4 players. And then, so that is what it means. Majority of Kenyans actually don't know that the oil in Shell, Ruby's, or Total, or any other petrol station is the same. It's just
totally.
Yes, there's a quality specs. It's just branding. The specs are the same. The oil that comes into the country is the same. As a matter of fact, I think the Energy Regulatory Authority increased the price of kerosene, which we call IK, to deter people from adulterating oil, because that's what used to happen. They use the cheap kero to adulterate your fuel. So now that's not possible, and they closed down all those who are adulterating. So it doesn't matter.
Where you buy your fuel?
No, it doesn't matter. It's just branding, but it's the same. And if should the EPRA find you adulterating fuel, they close down your premises, and they did close a lot of them. So now the existing ones, it doesn't matter where.
You're busting my bubble.
Branding.
You're busting my bubble. I've been putting some premium fuel nikijiambia high octane. Sasa engine inaenda kukaa.
High octane is there because they sell different. I think there are some others who call theirs differently. I don't want to be specific because then it will be like advertising for them. But it doesn't matter which petrol station you buy fuel in Kenya. They are all the same. The specs are the same. They are set the standard by Kenya Bureau of Standards. The fuel comes into the country through an open tender system, the same. And all the oil marketing companies share.
And the profits have to be the same, like the margins. You can't sell your fuel
beyond. It's beyond, but now you know you can sell less.
You have money.
Yes.
Why are there structures to make sure that you're in the oil business? You can't buy yours directly.
No, you can't. There's an open tender. There's a system of you must get an EPRA license for import and export, and you can't just, even if you had a friend with the king of Saudi, or the brother or the son or the daughter is your friend, and they give you free a shipload of oil, you can't bring it into Kenya.
For it. But we had some lady juzi amejiletea 17 million liters.
That was not true. And I don't want, because the matter is in court, it can't be true. There are dynamics to it, but yeah.
Uzuri wako, you are very selfless with knowledge. In fact, maybe you don't remember, but you almost inspired me and actually almost gave me a petrol station. Was it in Kisumu? Na ukanipatia mathematics ya the rent was supposed to be 100K. Tukapiga hesabu tukaona ukiweka profit margin ilikuwa how much per liter? Was it 5 bob? Then ilikuwa kitambo.
Now it's almost up to 20. Actually, fuel is basically cheap in Kenya. What is expensive are taxes. Up to 50% or thereabout, up to 60 is about taxes.
So ideally,
landed cost here, if you look at the prices, did you know that in in fuel, you also pay railways levy, and fuel is not ferried by by the train from Mombasa to Nairobi.
So minus the taxes, we could be buying fuel at half price.
Of course. Or less.
Or less. And I think there was a conversation that the landing cost of fuel at the coast was around 63 shillings at some point.
Yeah. If you go into the mathematics, the only problem is that they don't give you breakdown the way they do with electricity. You know, when you're buying electricity, they break it down. So, but they don't do it with fuel.
Is there an opportunity for beginners in the oil industry?
It has a deterrent, what they call in business, they say, no deterrent measures, they say barrier to business. Because in the OTS, you need to have $1 million in the line field. It's called line field. It's money that is running on the pipeline that must be lying there without, doing nothing. Like, it means if you have to be in the proper oil marketing company, you must put in $1 million that you don't need.
That's over 140 million.
That will be lying on the pipeline.
In a year?
Yes. Just being on the pipeline.
You have not talked about the investment.
No. This is line field.
So who makes money? The transporters, our to Anini, the petrol station.
Everybody makes money because everybody makes money. The oil must be transported. Kenya Pipeline transports it from Mombasa to Nairobi, and then there are, of course, the tankers that transport. Everybody makes money in the whole chain. Yes, but it has barrier to that business. Okay. It's one of those businesses that there is barrier to business. So that to be properly in the OTS, they could give you 1 year, but you must be able to fulfill those conditions, and there are barrier to business. Not many Kenyans will do that.
Now, would you say that in some way, wealth has that so-called barrier to business for so many people?
Of course it is. If it was easy for everybody, would be wealthy.
Is that by design? In this case?
Yes, it is. Like I told you, they used to think the world is unfair. And I was told, a rich friend of mine, he said, who told you it should be fair? It has to be fair because, like the story of Mansa Musa, who destroyed the economy of, the richest man who ever lived. Remember when they said he went and gave gold to everyone?
I also read about how, and I think that's a very interesting concept, how the value of gold started rising.
Yes, the value of gold, the value of gold is rising, but you see, there's this story we were discussing with you about the dollar and the BRICS.
Yes.
You know, Americans removed the gold standard from their currency.
Yes.
What that basically means, literally, is that they print their money. So you can't compete with their money.
Okay.
They literally print their money. It's not backed by gold.
How did the world not see that coming?
No, they didn't. I think it was President Nixon.
Yes.
Who did that. He removed the American,
72.
US, from the gold standard. So it means that their money is not backed by gold.
But the idea behind that felt like convincing. They said the backing money by gold standard made it very hard to create wealth because gold is bulky. Like moving gold from...
That's not true. They were just smart than the rest of the world. They were ahead of us. They could see that in future, probably gold will be dwindling. And most gold is found in Africa. If we really, invested in gold mining in Africa and retained the gold in Africa, then we created one currency like Gaddafi wanted to do, then we would be very rich. Our currency would be very strong because the gold is found in Africa.
This was mathematics ahead.
Yeah, oh yes, they knew. So when you hear this talk about BRICS and destroying the dollar, you can't. You will be competing with the currency that is not backed by gold. Yeah, they will literally print. Okay. If you bring in BRICS and print and backed it by gold, they will print more money.
Now, you're so open-minded, Pia, about investing.
Yes.
What are the factors you consider before you put your money into something? Of course, I know there is one thing I know about you, time value of money.
Yes.
Like how much am I going to get back versus the other options in the market. But you're also open to new ideas.
Yes, I am.
Because
new ideas bring in money.
But what are the factors you consider? Because Ama you're
must
at
be
a
risk
level where you
averse.
don't
You
care
look at
about
risk.
losing
No,
money.
you must care. But the higher the risk, the higher the profits. They're calculated risk. You look at you see, they say you look at the time value of money,
Yes.
the risk involved, and do your calculation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Aya, you introduced us
Balancing between the tension of an opportunity that needs exploitation and the available resources at the moment.
Ebu explain your kizungu sasa kwa urahisi, tension of the opportunity
that
at the
needs
moment.
exploitation
What
and
is
the
tension?
available resources at the moment. You're looking, this is an opportunity to invest in this business. This is the resources I have. How do I have to divide the resources and then mitigating the risks?
Don't put everything.
Yes, in one basket. Unless that basket is a sure bet.
Okay.
And rarely it must be time tested. You've looked at it.
Time tested.
Yes.
Don't invest in something new.
No, you can, because now technology is bringing in a lot of money. But do your research. Ask questions.
Okay.
Ask questions. This technology, what is it going to? What is it replacing?
And there's
Because like now, you know what happens if you are a journalist. There's always business in your profession. You are a journalist, but there's the business of journalism.
Yes.
Somebody who hires you as a journalist so that he makes money out of your journalism. So which means the business of money. There's being a lawyer, and then there's the business of law. There's being a doctor, and then there's the business of medicine. There's somebody who makes money out of doctors. There's doctors. There's the business of that profession. The business
so
of
every
it.
profession has its business.
Yes.
So that's where you choose whether you'll be a worker for life.
Yes.
Or you'll be an investor in
that profession.
And that's where skilling mixes with business.
Oh yes. It's becoming a skill-based economy, which means now you do the business of that business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a journalist, there are journalists who are employed and somebody is doing that business of journalism. You're disseminating information, but there's somebody who is making a business out of that business.
So you open your eyes to the business of your profession.
Oh yes. It's the most important. There are very good lawyers, but there are people, there's a business of law. There are some law firms that make a lot of money. There are some hospitals that make more money than others.
So you choose where you play
So the people who run, who are the people who are running that business?
You basically look at the next level of what you're doing.
Oh yes.
And there's a pathway to join the league.
Oh yes, there's a pathway. There's no, and you look at what our education system has done. You must, when they say they think outside the box, basically what it means is that our education system trains you to go to school, finish school, get a job, apply for a job. Actually teaches you how to write an application letter to be employed, and then be a good employee. So which means you'll report to work hard for the entrepreneur and get your salary paid at the end of the month. So by giving value, it's exchange of value. Is what value are you adding? It's value creation. You add value to the corporate you're working for, the company, and then they pay you at the end of the month.
Yes.
But nobody employs you to make you rich. Never, ever.
So there's nothing like...
Unless you are an entrepreneur. You see, there are entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur means that you may have all the skills, the knowledge to turn around the business, and you may not be risk averse. You may not want to take all the risk to leave a salaried job. You may need a salary and turn around an institution. A person who comes to mind in Kenya is Mwangi, James Mwangi. He came into equity and turned it around.
He came in as an employee.
Yes, and turned it around. So he's an entrepreneur. It's not an entrepreneur, but an intrapreneur. He can turn around an organization and create wealth out of it. And he's ended up being a shareholder of the same bank. And there are many in Kenya. So sometimes you are an entrepreneur. Don't struggle to be an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneur, there is also entrepreneur and self-employed. You see, entrepreneur means that you take all the risk. If the business fails, you go home, or you go big or go home. You take all the risks. But there is that being an intrapreneur where you depend on those who already have the wealth to create more wealth for them. And then you benefit at the end. It's a concept mostly that has been accepted in America, where even the employees get shares
of the
given
company.
given their involvement, the deepening involvement of such employees, and how the skills set that they have that can be able to make the company grow exponentially. Yes.
And even in the same spirit of investing,
Yes.
you have the same applications in real estate.
Yes.
You introduced me to a concept called the net present value
Yes.
of something.
Yes.
Before you buy a house, you take it 15, 20 years,
Yes, yes.
and then you come back.
Yes.
Not investing blindly. Did I explain that correctly?
Yes, you explained it correctly, because you must, like I explained to you, when you take a mortgage, which means from 15 years from now, you know, the mortgage you pay, you end up paying more because then you don't have cash to invest. But always there are several ways of doing it. There are always, you can take a mortgage on a mortgage, like you paid, then you offset, you take an offset and buy another. Here the concept is not much, but in the US they have that, where you know you use that.
No?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you look at the amount of money you're putting and what you get in return, and how long it will take you to turn around that money.
How long it will take you to?
Sometimes, given where given the outlay of the investment, there are quick fixes and there are low-hanging fruits. You know, there are those that you say, here, if I invest this X amount of money, I will be able to get a turnaround within 3 years. But there are long-term investments, you know, that you build now, but you will be able to get little for a longer period of time.
Okay.
You get, because maybe you have, because a real estate investment in terms of rent is very minimal, and that's why most mortgages, in a population of about 50 million people, we have only about 25,000 mortgages, because the mortgage rate is very high. When you go to markets like the US, the amount of money you pay as rent is almost the same as what you pay in a mortgage. Maybe a difference of maybe 10 to 20%. But in Kenya, a house in Lavington, for example, that is going for 40 million,
yes,
you pay $500,000 in a mortgage every month. Yet the rent that you collect out of that house could be 150,000.
Yeah.
You see the discrepancy.
Sense, yes.
Doesn't make sense. That's what we say. Those are the things that the government needs to do.
And people get into holes because they don't do the mathematics of the difference between what you get in the end,
yes,
and what you pay for.
So what it means, if you had an offer to get a 40 million loan, then you will invest that 40 million loan not in a mortgage, but in an investment that will give you a return, more return on investment than putting it on a mortgage and paying 500,000 when you could probably rent the same house for 150 and use the other money for your investment.
Okay. Now, this idea of growing wealth through debt, let's say, for example, we were talking about someone has an idea. This idea requires 5 million, right? There's that one person. I have an idea, this idea requires 5 million, so they are stuck at 5 million.
Yes.
And then there are people who want to start small. They are like, what business can you start with 100,000? What business can you start with 10,000? Is there a lie of starting with small money?
No, there isn't. You can start any business with any amount of money. I think when I was chairman of Youth Fund, there's a young man who asked me for 1,000 to start a business. And what was his business concept? Kuchoma mahindi. He just wanted 1,000 to buy a jiko ya 200, anunue makaa, anunue mahindi, alafu wachome na jioni anauza, so that the turnover. Another one was smokies. So it doesn't matter, the amount doesn't matter. It's really your focus and the goal. So you tell yourself, in 5 years I'm investing, what would be my turnovers? And the bank would see you bank 500 every day. So if they calculate on 30 days, then you go and ask for the money. They can give you less that, but at least there is turnover, the money coming in. They don't really care what money comes in. So that is key.
Na huyu jamaa wa kuapply loan ya 1,000 ulimpea form ama ulimtolea kwa mfuko?
Nilimtolea tu kwa mfuko. Yeah, and he did well. There's one also who was started a donkey business, and he told me once his goal was to buy a pickup. So he needed just a donkey, and he will just will use the donkey to pull the mkokoteni. So he had a mkokoteni, now he said he needed a donkey because then he'll carry more load. And then after his projection was that after 5 years, he'll be able to buy a pickup.
After 5 years?
Yes. And he said he will, after 1 year, he will buy another, what do you call it? Another punda. And he bought so another donkey.
The risk in that business is the donkey dying.
Yes, the risk is the donkey dying, which you can ensure the donkey dying. I mean, again, it's the donkey dying.
Yes.
But you see, it's the goal. It doesn't matter how much. It's the goal. You focus on your goal, and then you work every day, and everything you do counts.
Did you have success stories? Like
yes, that was a very successful. I followed up. He had bought. By the time I left count of what he was doing, he had 3 donkeys, and he told me in 5 years he would buy a pickup. With 3 donkeys already, 1 donkey was going for 16,000. So he will be pulling more mkokotenis with 3 donkeys. And I mean, that is now is investing and saving towards his goal.
Now, for the position you held at Youth Fund,
yes.
What did you learn about Kenyans and money, especially lending?
Lending. One is when a Kenyan goes to a bank to get a loan, he will not tell anyone. And it was very difficult trying to promote, lending, because now nobody wanted to say, I got a loan. Every Kenyan wants to, in fact, if you are having a problem with your government, because after 1 year, the government says we will not borrow. Then after 1 year, you hear they borrowed. The Kenyan culture is that they don't, even when they borrow money from banks, they don't want to tell anyone they borrow. They want it to look like it's their money. It's the same thing now. Our government borrowed money from the syndicated loan from the Eurobond. And they want to behave like that is their money. Now they have a lot of dollars. But they borrowed, and it's the culture of the country that when we borrow, we don't want to tell people we borrowed money to do business. We just say...
Where is this shame in borrowing coming from?
I don't know. I think because maybe also our financial institution and those who fail to pay, the way they auction, I think there's a problem. So probably.
And could it be...
Probably everybody wants to look successful and without telling people how they became successful.
Or probably watu wataki kurogwa. Unajua mambo ya pesa ni ngumu. Mambo ya pesa ni ngumu.
Yes.
As in, do you think that culture of the fear or the shame of borrowing holds the country down?
It does, because even the country itself, when people say we will not borrow, it's something that sounds good. Even America borrows. Every country borrows. I mean, it is just what you do with the money you borrow. It is what you do with the money. Most of the times people go to banks, they borrow the money, and then they use the money for the unintended purpose. So you borrow money, and you get the money, you marry 2 wives. And you borrow the money to build a commercial house. So basically, that's the defaulting. Or sometimes you borrow the money, or somebody falls sick, and then now you treat the person with the money. So it's what I was telling you about the risk mitigations. And now at least the loans that we borrow are insured. So at least it has limited that.
And Youth Fund is a brilliant concept. Actually, I'm on record saying that I wish there was like an NYS for financial literacy. Just as in the way they train people on skill, they train people on financial literacy, and then they give them the money. Why do you think a concept like Youth Fund has not picked up as it should?
It depends. Always, you say, even you, when you set up a business or the team you work with, the output is as good as the team you work with. Like they say, garbage in, garbage out. Including the government, the people you hire to do your business either makes you look good or look bad. It's as simple as such, and they put it very simply in business. Garbage in, garbage out. So the concept can be good, but the people you put in charge matters a lot.
What were your projected what were your projected results
Yes.
On a platform like Youth Fund? Because mtu kama I've seen you, watu
Yes.
wanakutoanisha left, right and center,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Then you have Youth Fund where
Yeah.
you can come with an idea, tutakupatia pesa.
Yes, yes.
Right? What were your projected what was your projected impact
We
of
need,
the platform?
we needed to create a culture of entrepreneurship. But we know we are divided into, there are like 5 of them. But very surprisingly, did you know David Ndii was part of the brainchild of Youth Fund? He was, even the concept of Youth Fund. He's a brilliant economist, by the way. And part of the thing, part of the mandates of Youth Fund was basically training young people about entrepreneurship. So the financial literacy, that before you get the money, you need to be trained on how to use the money or how to invest the money. And then 2, there were also the market linkages, which means the products which you are producing or buying and trading on had to be linked to the people to buy. Then, of course, there was onward lending and the lending itself. That there are other institutions you will give the credit guarantee scheme so that they would be able to do onward lending to youth enterprises and young people. So, and the other one was actually the YESA, the Youth Employment Scheme Abroad, which now the president talks much about. But the concept was not, has not been implemented right or the right way, because what we were trying to copy was the Philippines system, which was structured labor. That
Yes.
was part of the mandate of the Youth Fund. Now they have an employment body, I think with the Ministry of Labor or something, which was supposed to address the issue of those Kenyans who are working abroad. And I don't know whether you know, the remittance of diaspora remittance alone last year was 4.5 billion, about 4.3 to 4.5 billion last year.
The whole
USD, US dollars.
Oh Lord. 4.5 billion US
in
dollars.
2023.
But this is money that, you still
This
count
is
it as money
remitted.
injected into the
Yes,
economy.
yes, and that's what helps an economy run. So in structured labor export, as a mandate of the fund, was basically a government trying to do a structured labor export the way Philippines does it. It sends away 11 million people, both young and old, into different countries that need labor.
Skilled or
Both
unskilled?
skilled and unskilled.
Okay.
And then in return, it generates resources out of it. It's supposed to be done in a very structured way. It's not, and I saw the president was President Ruto was very passionate about it, but seems like the people he has put in charge to be able to deliver a vision. He's a vision carrier. So like your team, if you don't have a good team to deliver, then you have a problem. But that is basically what the idea was about. Because then as a country, you say, we have sent 11 million people. So even if the government gets taxes 10,000 out of the 11 million people, then you know this is what our revenue authority gets in terms of diaspora, remittance, in terms of direct taxes. From these people, we've created opportunities for. And then there would be the culture of saving in terms of giving them back something when they come back. Could be in terms of housing. So if, let's say, for instance, you say, who get out of their salary, we need another 20,000 every month. And for 11 million people, that's a lot of money. Then that now will create an opportunity for them when they come back, they will get a house, which they could get as a token of appreciation or continue paying a little mortgage on it. So it works in Philippines. And I went to Philippines to study the same way we went to study about lending the Grameen way in Bangladesh, which was done by Professor Yunus. He had a system where you calculate somebody's seeking money, and you will be able to look at where they are, what they want to do. By the time you touch the button, you know how much to give them. And it's co-guarantee, because then in a society we live with people who know us. So it is how it is structured. The structured labor it's something which was well thought out. And if we could copy what Philippines did,
We would be in a better place.
oh yes. And it's not necessarily, but it's as a result of being a government, being unable to provide job opportunities for the populace. As a country also, it starts with the kind of training, the education we are giving our young people. Because the kind of education we are giving, we are not, you see, it has to be market driven. How many lawyers are we producing? How many lawyers are we producing? How many mechanics are we producing?
Lawyers are
How many
jobless.
teachers are we producing? How many nurses are we producing? We must know, is that what the market needs? We could be producing more lawyers than the market needs, so we end up with crooked lawyers. So many of them running around, they don't have job opportunities in law firms, and they don't have money to start their own law firms.
Or maybe we could be producing enough criminals.
Yes, or maybe we don't have enough criminals. But again, when the economy is not doing well, again we produce more criminals. But maybe the court spaces and the jails are not enough for all of them.
So that impacts security.
Yes,
again.
All these things are correlated.
So there's a way the government can produce graduates based on market needs.
Oh yes, that is what should happen. In most developed economies, that's what they do. They say they plan ahead. They say we need more teachers on this. We need more lawyers. We need more doctors.
So parents
we need
more
science
to supply teachers.
Yes, not parents doing this. It's the government planning. It's a whole. They say the courses are this. We need more accountants. We need this X number of accountants. So they are planning ahead. So it means we won't be producing more than we need. It's the factors of production. That's the demand versus supply. So you're supplying more teachers than the country needs. You're supplying more nurses than the country needs, or more doctors than the country needs. So you have very qualified doctors.
Yes.
You've had them complaining. So which means you are producing more doctors than we can, or than the government can absorb. We don't have capacity to absorb them.
Okay.
Then we have more brain drain. We take our doctors away, and if they are well trained, they took us a lot of money to train. And then you have problems in hospitals. You don't have enough doctors.
Structured labor export and brain drain. Isn't that a paradox?
It's a paradox, because now what it means is that you need to balance as a country. What it means, mostly as a country, you need to take away unskilled laborers in structured labor export. It's not the trained laborers. It's not the skilled. You have a skill set, and you know this is what the country needs. The excesses where we have unskilled laborers, because there are more countries that need unskilled laborers. They're paying more.
Guys could be in the US.
Yes, they're doing more. There are countries that are developing. Dubai, you know, Qatar, all those countries have less population and they need manpower. So you send away unskilled laborers but retain skilled laborers, because then in terms of government planning, you know, you need X number of nurses. So these are enough, one nurse for every 10 patients. You know, you do your calculations. It's calculated. Even when President Kibaki came, how did the donors give him money? He calculated to take one child to school needed 100 bob, and broke down the 100 bob. He says 1 shilling for pencil, 2 bob for rubber, you know, 3 shillings for a book. You break down. So it's basically planning. And I think that's our planning mantra reigns at the Treasury of National Economic Planning. So we are sure. We have a Bureau of Statistics, and so we know the numbers. So basically, structured labor export is supposed to be for unskilled laborers, who are not able, which means we have produced what we need, but we have those who are unskilled for some reason, because of also attrition. We have an ordinary level. The school system is supposed to produce up to ordinary level, which is the Form 4. And then there are others who don't go to tertiary, get tertiary education or go to universities. But all of them need to eke a living. So then as a country we plan. We only take away unskilled laborers for the structured labor export. But then we ensure that we use a lot of money to train our doctors, nurses. We don't send them away, and we pay them properly. You know, if we plan properly, then we know how many doctors we need, how many nurses we need, how many lawyers we need as a country.
Sawa. And thank you for that explanation. Kuna hii kitu ya shame in borrowing.
Yes.
But mimi, I rank you as a debt expert. Yes. And kuna mahali ulini confuse when we are doing the credit card mathematics.
Yes.
You say you can use your credit card to pay for a holiday, right?
Yes.
But then again, tuko na swali ya, the money you borrow needs to be put to good use. A holiday is not an investment, right?
It could be an investment, maybe where you're going to holidays, where every big shot goes to. So probably you have an opportunity of meeting people who can connect you to your destiny, or could make your business prosper. But what I meant by that is not really that you use your credit card to pay for holidays or all that. But what I was saying, you could have the money. So it's how debt works. It's basically, credit card is not a bad thing. It's bad when you use it a wrong way, and if you don't pay on time, rather than using your debit card, because that is money. When the bank gives you a debit card, when the money gets lost, it takes longer for the bank to pay you back the money, because it is your money. The credit card is the bank's money. If you lose that money, the bank insures it, and the bank would return their money. It's their money, it's not your money.
So when
so long as
hacks your credit card,
yes,
it's not on you.
The risk is not on, it's on the bank, because it's bank's money, it's not your money. When they hack your debit card, it's your money. They will take longer to repay you because it's your money.
Yes.
So the credit card, the mathematics is about paying it on time. When you pay it on time, it's almost zero cost for you, because you are using bank's money.
Isn't that the same as using cash? Like, let's say you have a credit card, you pay it on time. What's the difference between that and going to withdraw the money?
The difference is that the money you would have paid and the credit cards, the cards, they ask you, how do you want to pay? Do you want to pay 50% of what you've used? Do you want to pay after 45 days? They ask you. So which means if you had 100,000 you needed to spend now, so you use your credit card and then pay after 45 days, you could use that cash to pay something else. But ensure that before the 45 days expires, or on the 45th day you pay. So which means you have a manageable cash flow, that you have extra money to use, but as long as you pay on time.
So your cash is strictly for investment?
Yes.
For spending, you use credit?
You're using somebody else's money. How do they say the rich don't use their money? They use other people's money.
The rich or the wealthy?
The wealthy, including your other people's time. Because if you work for someone, it's your time you are selling to them.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't use their time. They use your time and pay you for your time.
They hire your time?
Yes. They don't use their money. Concept. They don't use their time. They use your time.
So they can do something else with their time?
Yes, they can do something else with their time.
So the whole idea of the game is getting to a place where you have more time to use as you please.
Oh yes, that's the financial independence. See, there are those stages. There's financial crisis, there's financial instability, there's financial stability, then there's financial independence. So when you gain the financial independence, means that you can do what you want, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it, when you want to do it, wherever you want to do it. You can eat what you want to eat, when you want to eat it, with whom you want to eat it, at the time you want to eat it.
Your story starts in
where you want to eat it.
Your story starts in 2004. When was the first time you tasted financial independence, and what are the moves you made?
It takes long. It takes long. It's not easy, yes. It takes easy. You start from financial crisis. You are in crisis.
Crisis?
Yes.
What is crisis? The amount of resources you have versus the needs?
Like the joke they say, the money you have cannot solve the problems you have. You eat the money.
That's financial crisis.
Perpetually, yes. Then instability, where you are not able to, you are unstable. You get today, tomorrow you don't get. You get. Today you get and tomorrow you don't get, like those daily.
You've been through all those stages.
Oh yes. I've been through all those stages. And of course the stability, but sometimes stability can take you back to instability. Like those who are employed, they're earning good money, they have a credit card, they have a car loan, they have a mortgage, but they are only 2 months away from poverty. If they lost their job, the next 3 months they are back to financial instability.
Anyone who is employed on a certain lifestyle, by default, they are just 2 months away from
poverty.
How do you break from
financial
that?
Crisis?
How do you break from that?
As they earn their salary, they must have a side investment to be able to cushion, to get away from
but from another forum, I spoke to Ed Thiongo. He's a financial advisor and a representative for venture capital organizations. He makes a case that there's nothing like a side investment. For a business to work, you must give it time and attention.
That's why they are financial advisors. They never get the finances themselves. I mean, that's the difference. It's like a motivational speaker. I mean, they're just motivating you. But they may tell you I started a restaurant with 1 spoon of rice. But, I mean, but the reality is different. So that's why they're just financial advisors. They're advising those who have finances and those who want to get finances. But probably they don't have the finances themselves. It is a reality. You have had motivational speakers. Yeah, they can motivate you.
So motivational speaking does not work?
No, it doesn't work. Works sometimes because if you need motivation, and sometimes they need more motivation than the people they're motivating.
So you make a case that side hustles do work, and
they do work, because then the risk, majority of Kenyans and in the world, majority of workplace, there are no people who can just leave employment once and then start earning a living out of entrepreneurship. It's the most difficult thing because the transition is very traumatizing. You know, you are used to getting a salary at the end of the month. Then all of a sudden now there is no salary, no nothing, no backup. You just start straight away.
Yes.
It's the most difficult thing. But if you start slowly, and this is what we tell people, it is important to have a side hustle. And that's what, it's a good culture to have a side hustle. Because then you build slowly. And then you also learn business. You learn what works, what doesn't work. It could be anything. It could be a kinyozi. It could be anything. It could be a car wash. It could be anything. But it needs, you start slowly so that you understand how money works, how the investment works.
You fail
what
in
works,
a safe zone?
Yeah, you fail in a safe zone.
Okay.
That's what I would advise those who are working. You fail in a safe zone.
The only thing I've ever heard you for, the one I remember, being disappointed about, is your investment in real estate in Kayole, for example. And there's someone who thinks that real estate is an sure bet. So of course you've explained that there are a lot of factors to consider. Real estate is an investment depending on a few factors. But that's one thing you complained about, Kabisa.
Depends on where. You know, all the investments, you know, I mean, you've seen where, and I've done that. I have done that. I've invested where somebody apparently was looking very good, the land. But the price I was sold was not, after 10 years, the price of that land is more or less the same. It happens. It happens, but sometimes they say most of land in Kenya appreciate by 10%.
Okay.
Again, you can be right, depending on where it is. Perception has been created and people have bought land where there was no value at all. And some of the culprits are the so-called celebrities, where they sell Poti Maguta, but it ends up not being the real Poti Maguta. So there are chances that you could be duped based on perception.
You do valuation.
You could do valuation, and even the valuers give wrong value.
So how
it has happened not once, not twice.
How do you know as an investor that you're putting your money in the right place as far as real estate is concerned?
There is no sure bet. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's not a straight jacket. That's why entrepreneurship is a risk. Sometimes what works for somebody else doesn't work for you. Okay. Yes.
So it's basically randomness.
Planned random. It's calculated risk. If you go to, for instance, if you go to these areas where people are selling land, and you went as a group, and you were taken in a bus. I don't know whether you've done that, and you went and saw the land, and you were in a group and then left. Take your own bus or take your own motorbike and go there and ask the prices of land around that area, independent of the bus you are carried in. If you want to really do due diligence.
Due diligence is doing your own research.
You are doing your own. If you want to spend your own money, you do your own research. Because then it's like I told you, then you are getting advice from the seller.
Someone who has vested interest.
Yes. It's what will give.
Now in your experience, you're very sharp. Now I'm a beneficiary of the nuggets in your share. But wewe umewahi patikana? Have you ever lost money?
Oh yes, I've lost money.
Ulipatia wapi?
Have I told you there's land I bought in Kisumu from a friend who was at a financial problem. So I told the lawyer, and he knew the lawyer. So I said, the lawyer suggested, he said that this guy is in financial problem and he's selling the property at a cheap price. So I would suggest you just give him the money and you buy. And I didn't go to see the property. The land was 1 acre, but it was a strip, you know, it was a strip 1 acre.
A strip 1 acre?
Yes, but it was 1 acre.
So ni barabara, ulinunua barabara eka moja.
Yes, so it happened.
It was 1 acre.
Yes, it was 1 acre.
But it's...
yes, it was a strip 1 acre.
A
but
corridor,
this is
a 1 acre corridor.
Yes, and he said he had lost the, what do you call it, the mutation. So it's called the deed plan, or the mutation. So the deed plan and mutation. So he couldn't, but he had the title. So the title is written 1 acre. So I'm buying 1 acre and I'm like, I got a deal. Only to realize it was not a deal at all.
You bought a 1 acre dining table.
Yeah.
So, Kianani. And, hey, dear Lord, and from where you sit, do you think everybody has an opportunity to create wealth, or it's a few people who do certain things?
Of course it has to be a few people, because then you must know what others don't know in order to be where others are not. So it's the 1%. It's basically this financial intelligence. It starts with financial literacy. As a country, how literate are we about finances? How? Does the government educate us about that? No, it doesn't. Does the people who have money tell you exactly how to make the money? No, not at all.
How?
But you get motivational speakers or financial analysts, you call them what? There are many. They will tell you to motivate you, but does it work? How does it work?
You have a bird's eye view of Kenyan politics.
Yes.
You know what works, you know what doesn't.
Yes.
What do you think changes if the population were enlightened about financial literacy?
They demand more. For every tax they pay, they demand more. And that's what government doesn't want. Because when, you know, the financial literate, when government says buy, you sell. When government says sell, you buy. Because they're financially literate. That's why in economic crisis, there are people who make money during economic crisis. And there are people who have the victim mentality. They are blaming the government. Yes. There's no perfect government. There will always be governments, and there is no perfect government. Some will be good depending on the people who are in power. Some will be bad. But there is no perfect government. So what you need to run away from is a victim mentality, expecting government to do it for you. By nature, government is supposed to suck from you. You pay your taxes. When the population is more financially literate, they'll demand more. For every taxes they pay, they'll want services.
Okay.
And then they also understand that the government is made up by the people they elected and is supposed to serve them. As opposed, most African countries, Kenya included, actually think that politicians are very important people. That they think they are gods, that they are their bosses. When in real sense, in countries where people have financial literacy, when you go to countries, even in the US, the politicians line up in the bank. They mostly look at the factors of production. The people who are doing business are the most people who are celebrated. Because then they create wealth, which government then taxes. But here the politicians steal more money, and the population think that the politicians is the best thing after sliced bread, that they are more important than them, as opposed to them understanding that the politicians need them to survive. Most of our politicians, mostly in Africa and in Kenya included, they're not people who can create wealth. Look at all the leaders who have left power. They're not big employers. They can't survive without a monthly, what do you call it? They are paid after they retire. They have allowances. They have monthly salaries. I think a quarter of what, half of or 3/4 of what they were earning. They're actually dependent on the population. All of them, they have cars provided for them. We pay their house girls. We pay their drivers. They literally depend on us. Instead of creating factors of production.
the population depends on the politicians for handouts.
Yes, because they've created a perception that they are important. They are not. It is the population that work hard, the business community that produces wealth that they have to tax for them to survive.
Okay.
So that we have a constitution where we have so many more leaders, and those leaders are taking from us, as opposed to us getting from leaders. Like they say, a good constitution is one that must allow the population to do everything they want to do, except what it tells them not to do, and does not allow leaders to do anything except what it tells them to do. So we need a country where we create more wealth, or we create production, we create an enabling environment.
Yes. Okay.
So that people can create wealth, they can be taxed. As opposed to having a system where we want wealth from people we don't enable to create that wealth.
Nice.
It's like milking a dying cow. You must create an enabling environment. You create grass for the cow to eat so that the cow can be fat. Then you can milk it.
Milk a fat cow.
Yes, and encourage as many young people as possible to be entrepreneurs so that the government can have a wider tax base, as opposed to creating more leaders who are depending on the population for their livelihoods.
Wow.
Don't you think we have more leaders than we really need? And that is what is ballooning our wage bill.
Over-representation.
Over-representation. So the country's resources are little. We are talking more of sharing bread that we can't bake.
Good point.
Yes.
Now, in your experience, now the knowledge you have gathered since the time when you... And you are a beneficiary of motivational speaking, because the book you recommended to me has worked for me and is still motivation.
It's a book, though, which tells you how to think.
Sawa.
And those are good because they are now even audio books. Rather than listening to some crazy music, you should listen to those audio books because they teach you how to. Some may be good, some may be bad, but mostly at least you know something.
My first direct beneficiary of what you told me is my friend, and it was Harrison Mareka.
Yes.
He calls once in a while. I think from 2019, I think I introduced him in, I think, 2021.
Yes.
He calls, I did not know these things are not taught in school.
Yes.
Shout out to Harry.
Yes.
And wewe, in your experience, in your megather over time,
yes.
Do you, what does, leo sina pesa, what does that mean for you? Because you also have that.
Yes, of course. It's just
but it does not literally, it's a different money language from another person.
Of course, it grows every day. I mean, everybody, their levels are different. What not having money for you means to you may be different from mine. And it's the same thing. Somebody else, it may be higher. So probably somebody is having in an account less 1 billion and he's saying he's broke. And probably another person is having 10,000 in the account and they're saying they're broke. Another is having 1,000. So it's all levels.
It's a game of levels.
It's a game of levels and it grows.
Wow. Yeah. God, we've spoken for almost 2 hours.
Yes.
Asante sana for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
I believe from this conversation, kuna watu watakasirika. There are points we did not stretch.
Yes.
But we hope for your selflessness tutaweza kupata kama watu, if you feel like there's something you want God to touch on, especially mambo ya do, vile nimesema is a debt expert, please give us a comment, give us your feedback. We'll be happy to make a formal request na tutawambia due to public demand.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Asante.
It was a pleasure.
Asante sana for sticking with us up to this point. We hope that you enjoyed our content. I trust that it was time well wasted. If you're new to our channel, we have a lot of good vibes uploaded already. Please scroll through, chagua yenye itakubamba, choose what you really feel suits your taste. We have more and more and more content also coming through, so stay subscribed. Come on, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, this is a good reason to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell. Otherwise, I'm Dr. Kingori. See you on the next one.